Hey, welcome to episode 380. It's Carm. Hey, being a unique trendsetter or being an innovation starter can be good for your business. If what you do is great, the competition will start to do what you do. So, and therefore, you need to continue to reinvent yourself. In author Steve Miller's book, Uncopyable, he says, look at what everyone else is doing and then don't do it. His goal is to make you uncopyable and create an advantage over the competition. Now, here's a taste.
The way I look at it is that when the lightning bolt comes out of the sky, do they think of you first? Do they think of you second? Do they think of you at all? My objective is that I'm the only one that they think about, especially after somebody's already done business with me. How do I make sure that they don't see me as just another shop?
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hi, Carm Capriato here, and in just a few moments, Steve Miller and I will discuss his book, Uncopyable, and I promise you'll add this to your must-read list. Steve is Kelly's dad and a marketing gunslinger, and you have an exclusive chance to listen to his wisdom right here on the Aftermarket's premier talk radio. You know, this episode is brought to you by Federal Mogul Motor Parts, with brands like Moog, Felpro, Wagner Brake, Anco, Champion, Seal Power, FP Diesel, and more. All the great brands. Their parts, Tech's trust. Find out more at fmmotorparts.com. You know, we're nearing the 400th Remarkable Results Radio episode, and I want to extend my gratitude to you. You know, thanks so much. Let's keep innovating and trailblazing as we continue our search for uncharted territories to develop great topics and roundtables to keep our industry's premier aftermarket podcast as a strong go-to source for you that makes you smarter. Hey, I'm giving away podcast swag during November 2018, and you can get some. For all the episodes in November, just listen to the episode for the password and then go to remarkableresults.biz/swag, S-W-A-G, and enter. In just a bit, I'll tell you the password. Hey, as I mentioned, Steve Miller is best known as Kelly's dad and a marketing gunslinger. He helps organizations grow by achieving uncopyable attachment with their customers. I read his book in 2 sittings on a weekend, and I couldn't put it down, and I related his principles perfectly to our aftermarket service industry. You're going to love this. Now, once you've heard the interview, you can add the book to your collection on the books page on my website. Now, in this episode, Steve provides food for thought on how your brand and attitude towards your business will set you apart from your competition. Gaining an unfair advantage will turn your business into an uncopyable success. Listen to get the essence of his message and then read the book so you can create your uniqueness and stand out among the rest. Find Steve's bio and our interview's talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E380. Now you're ready to gain an unfair advantage and learn what can separate an average business from an extraordinarily successful one? Let's go. Enjoy. Hey, a warm welcome to Steve Miller. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Carm, how you doing?
Hey, I am thrilled to have you here, and I can't wait for the audience to hear why you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about Steve.
I can't wait to hear why I'm here, too.
Attaboy. Meetings and Conventions, Steve. Their magazine calls you the idea man for his non-traditional, no-spin approach to marketing and branding. He's the author of this new book, Uncopyable, How to Create an Unfair Advantage Over Your Competition. I got a copy of that book. I couldn't put it down, so I'm recommending to the audience, you got to go. I put it on my books page on the website already.
Well, thank you very much.
It's an amazing bestseller. Unbelievable. You basically nailed our automotive aftermarket industry. Now, I know you weren't writing just for us, but boy, this is perfect. Now, I want to know something. Why do you call yourself Kelly's dad?
Let's just start with the title of the book itself. You know, uncopyable. In order to be uncopyable, you have to be willing to kind of create rules of competition for yourself that are either super difficult or impossible for your competition to mimic, right? To copy, and or even that they're not willing to. And today, in the world of competition today, it's not enough to be better than the competition. You have to be uniquely, relevantly different than the competition. When people are thinking in their minds, why should I do business with you versus every other option available out there? That doesn't mean why are you better. It's what makes you so different that I really need to do this with you. And I always say that everybody tells people they're different, but you have to have absolute viable proof that you are different, which means that you are willing to do things and say things and create parts of your business that people just kind of go, wow, I don't think I could ever do that. Everything walks the talk. So it even goes down to something as simple as, my title. I wanted to stress in my world that there are a couple of things going on here. Number one, I am different. And number two, that who I am is more important than what I do. So you notice that my title is actually Kelly's Dad, Marketing Gunslinger. So number one, I'm using a different language. I'm using different words for my title, but in the order is that I am Kelly's dad. What I do is I'm a marketing gunslinger. So it has caused no end to consternation to major, publications like Wall Street Journal when they interview me, because they'll go, well, we need to put your title down. I go, well, do you know what my title is? They go, well, we can't write that. Yeah, well, if you want my interview, that's my title. So anyway, it very clearly, and it sticks. It sticks in people's minds. So, which is another part of this.
And the beauty of what you just said resonates through the entire book, to be different.
Right. To be valuably different.
We in our industry always seem to, and I'm not going to say always, but there's a certain group in our industry that says, listen, I'm not going to share my secret sauce with anyone. I'm not going to join a networking group, a 20 group, because what I do is unique and it's different. And I think everyone begs to differ that the people that are uncopyable are willing to share today. And every time we seem to look at the competition and we want to mimic what they're doing, they change.
Yeah, then they move.
And then they move. So how do you ever stay ahead if you're not unique?
People think it's unique, but it's not unique. It's just better. Because essentially what we do is we look at what the competition is doing and we say, all right, I can do that, but I can do it better. And so, we might say, oh, we can do something faster. We deliver faster than the competition. As soon as you start delivering faster than the competition says, oh, we can do it faster than them. And then they just turn around and they become more efficient or whatever it is that they have to do to be faster than you. And it just becomes this vicious cycle or circle, I should say, of we're all looking at each other. We're looking at what each of us is doing, and we just say, well, I can do better. And because when you say the word I'm different or unique or something like that, that basically means you are a category of one. And when you're a category of one, nobody else is doing anything remotely close to what you are doing. And that's why I say it creates a thing of rules of competition is what I like to talk about. I love to create the rules of competition. Simple things that so clearly show my marketplace that I am different, and it's just like it's completely obvious to them the moment they start to have a conversation with me, or they see what I've or they've read my book or something, and they just go, "Wow, this guy's different." It's just obvious that I'm different, and you know what? It's all out there. I'm not trying to hide it from anybody, and I find it very funny when I've had experiences, with the groups of 20 and some of them, and of course in the aftermarket. And people will sometimes say, "Yeah, I don't want to share because I've got, like you said, I've got this secret sauce." And I go, "Okay, why don't you tell me what your secret sauce is, and then I will tell you why it's not."
If you could see Steve's face.
I'm passionate about this.
I'm talking to Bud Houston, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Hey, Bud, what's the best thing about the Guru on the Go van?
Yeah, I think that the best thing about the van and the kind of the mission is it's twofold. One is ultimately to bring brand awareness of the Federal Mogul portfolio, but I think the way that we do that is we bring value to the technician, the shop owner. And how we do that is we bring technical content, we bring some updated material, and once they see that I care about their operation, their reputation, and their qualifications, one, they're built up, but two, they really, at that point, listen to what I have to say about the brands, and it's built, the relationship is built on a mutual benefit.
So you bring technical stuff and you bring product specific.
Yeah, me personally, I'm super technical background. So anytime I'm doing a lunch and learn or a van visit, training session, it's typically 90% technical, 10% product.
Any new Moog products that are getting good reviews?
Yeah, one that's recently released is the Dodge Ram 25 and 3500 complete steering assembly. It's inner and outer tie rod ends and drag link pre-assembled. This is the first aftermarket part that's available in a complete assembly for this application. And the specific applications, late model Dodge Rams, are actually a kind of a high failure part on the chassis parts.
What about the compression loaded ball joints with pre-installed integral dust boot?
Yeah, the integral dust boot has been a huge hit. Initially, the idea was well, where is the boot? And then once you kind of get around and show people, they're like, well, that is the best idea I've ever seen, because I've torn so many boots on installation, or I've had a boot that's not seated properly. And they're like, well, that's just not an issue now. And they love it.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. Carm here, and I'm stopping for just a second to tell you the November 2018 password for our SWAG swag contest. It is learning. Just go to remarkableresults.biz/swag to enter. Good luck. So, Steve, we talk a lot on the show about your ideal customer and avatar, and I loved the premise in the book when you said, "Are you thinking what they're thinking? I mean, are you having their voice?" It was an incredible way to think about. So, what is Sally saying or thinking?
The first time I was exposed to this was when I was doing some consulting work for Nordstrom. Just a little quick backstory. I knew Jim Nordstrom, president at the time. We played golf together a little bit. He and I were having a meeting about actually some other project that I was kind of talking to him about. And he made the comment, well, we need to hire you to come in and work with us. And I said, I know nothing about retail. I'm primarily a B2B guy. And he said, that's exactly why we're hiring you. He said, because you're going to bring a perspective into our world that we don't have. If we hired other people who were retail consultants, they'll just teach us what they're going to teach our competition. So I got into this, into these conversations with them about marketing and branding, ultimately the myth of Nordstrom in the customer service part. But I remember very distinctly being in a meeting with the upper level guys. And while we're talking about some of these things of how to attract more business, but their philosophy is, how do we attract more business without actually acting like we're trying to attract more business? They're not known for their super, super heavy marketing or anything like that. They do advertising, of course, and sales. But they're kind of more laid back than most businesses. At least they used to be. And so anyway, so every time we would come up with this idea, somebody would look at somebody else and they would say, well, what does Barbara think about this? And, at first I thought, okay. And they would all then start chattering like, well, Barbara probably would think like this. Barbara would probably respond like this. And then, a few minutes go by and somebody would say, well, what does Barbara think about this? And then they would have that conversation again. I finally kind of stopped and I said something along the lines of, hey guys, who's Barbara and why is Barbara not in this meeting? and this is many years ago, and they all laughed and they said, "Oh, we forgot. You don't understand what we're talking about." Barbara is in our minds, and they didn't use the word avatar at the time. I don't even think the word avatar was around at that time, but they basically said Barbara is our picture of our ideal customer. And and we know who Barbara is. We've defined her down to where, she is, 42 years old. She's married. She has 2 kids. They have a annual income of $150,000. They live in this kind of a house. They do this type of stuff. I mean, they had her just down to a T. And when they described it like that, it was very clear to me that helped you think like your customer. And you often read that, oh, you got to think like your customer. Oh, you got to know what keeps your customer awake at night. You got to know, what is it that they want versus what do they need. And when you come up with ideas for something, you should always say, okay, well, what would Barbara think about this? And when you do describe, have a very, very definitive description of your avatar, then it's much, much easier to think like them. Because if you don't do that, if you don't know exactly who your customer is, and if you're not able to think like them, then you're always going to be you're going to fall under the habit of of our own heuristics, where the way we see the world and how we think and stuff like that. And when it comes to selling and marketing, the bottom line is how we see the world. It really doesn't matter nearly as much as how our customer sees the world.
I love the fact that Nordstrom said, listen, come on in. We'd love a different perspective. And we may, as an industry here in the aftermarket, just be sleeping too close to it. And maybe we need to back ourselves off and be a perpetual student of everything else around us and see how we can take those ideas and adapt them in.
You're exactly right. And that was a big eye opener for me, because and we're talking about over 20 years ago. So it became kind of one of the cornerstones of the way I see things and the way I work with clients and how I see marketing and stuff like that. But perfect example, 2 weeks ago, I was speaking at the National Association of Convenience Stores show, and I had a packed room. I only had a breakout, but about 400 people in the room. I asked a simple question. I said, how many of you on a regular basis go out and study other convenience stores? And 100% raised their hands. And then I said, how many of you on a regular basis go out and study pizza parlors, other retail establishments, restaurants, sub shops or anything like that? How many of you do that? I'll bet in the entire room, 10 hands. I said, you're not going to get new ideas from studying the competition. You only get new ideas by studying outside of your box.
And when you get that new idea from your competition and you think you can implement it different or better, they will one-up you.
Because they see you doing it, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're looking at you, see? And what I'm telling everybody is, if you go outside, and I gave them, last at the NAC show, I gave several examples of places like pizza parlors and things that they were doing to attract new customers and to get people to come back to their places of business. And I said, you see, these are ideas that you will not get from studying the competition. And you will take this back and you can start doing this, and your competition is going to go, wait a minute, what is that? And very often the competition will say something like, well, that's stupid. Why are they doing that? Nobody does that in our industry.
So there's another nail for the coffin.
Yeah, exactly right. This is what drives me crazy about most, and we're talking about most small businesses especially. I mean, big businesses are just as guilty, but I don't really, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the small guys who are out there who have a love for what they do. You and I earlier were talking about how sometimes, the owners of a small business, a small aftermarket shop or something like that, they don't really get involved in the marketing. And I keep telling people over and over again, you got to understand, you're not in the business of repairing, cars. you're in the business of marketing, repairing the cars. Because it doesn't matter how good you are at fixing my car. If I don't know about you, you don't exist. And owners, I call it the golf pro syndrome. If you're a golfer and you go to whether it's a public course or a private club or something like that, you go in the pro shop and there's a head pro in there, right? Odds are that head pro is in the business because he or she loves playing golf. And they were not good enough to make it on the professional tours. So they said, okay, I'm going to just go and work in a pro shop. But they go and they work in the pro shop and they're in there thinking, I love golf. I love golf. They're not in there thinking, I need to sell shirts, sell golf balls, sell clubs.
What a great analogy. I love it.
It is, but it's true in so many different worlds. But that's my favorite picture because it's so clear. And so many of those pros in pro shops are starving.
It's a perfect analogy to our industry. A technician that started his business, had to work in the bays. Then he kind of grew up, put himself on the counter. And then he said, I can't get it all done. And then he put himself in the office and hired a service advisor in his place. And then he has to ask himself the question, he hears it all the time from us. You got to be the sales and the marketing guy. And his next thing is, I don't know how to do that. He only could speak car. He didn't know how to service right, and now he's in an even tougher position. That's why this book is so valuable for our industry on being uncopyable. And you basically have a blueprint in it.
I try to write the book so that it is, as you pointed out, it is, number one, it's short and it's easy to read, but it's also, as you're reading it, I'm saying, go do this, right? And it's stuff that people, I think, who read it are going to say, oh, I can do this. I can go do that. My aim was always to help primarily small businesses with this book, because it just drives me crazy when I see people who, it's their livelihood, and they're taking care of their family, and they're, and then they might be able to hire people and give other people jobs, and see, and I think that's what this is all about: is how do we help people succeed for themselves and for their families and their business.
Well, you nailed it. And I love this book. I'm going to recommend it to anyone that I know and see. In fact, I was on the phone with someone today. I was doing a little Zoom call, and I held up the book. And I think he bought it on the spot on his smartphone.
Thank you.
And I just told this guy, I said, listen, we were talking about some issues he was having, and I says, this is the number one read for you right now. I know we can't talk about the whole book on the show, but I do want to talk about this thing you have called the Cool Kids Club.
This, to me, is one of the most powerful ways to separate yourself from the competition. Let's start with what I consider to be the definition of marketing or the purpose of marketing. And the purpose of marketing is to be on the mind of the prospect when the prospect is ready to buy. The purpose of business, so in the beginning, we have to find somebody who's ready to buy, to start a relationship with them. And that goes back to the purpose of business, which is to create a customer and then keep a customer. I mean, that's simple. We need to create a customer and then keep a customer. So the marketing part is to get people to buy from us initially. The retention then becomes, getting them to come back to us again in the future, and getting them to talk about us to other people in the future. Now, the way I look at it is that when the lightning bolt comes out of the sky, do they think of you first? Do they think of you second? Do they think of you at all? My objective is that I'm the only one that they think about, especially after somebody's already done business with me. How do I make sure that they don't see me as just another shop? How do I get them to see me as, oh man, I will always go back, to Carm Shop. I will tell my friends about Carm Shop. And one of the very, very best ways to create that is through what I call the Cool Kids Club. Now, in very generic terms, in the world, you could say that there are loyalty programs, buy more stuff and you get discounts or you get incentives or something like that. And that's sort of what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is that you create a club that everybody wants to be a member of, who fits the profile of your target market. I talk about this in my book, Maker's Mark, bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. It's not the biggest bourbon manufacturer, distillery in the world, but it's decent size. But they have one location in Loretto, Kentucky, where they make all their bourbon. But what they did a number of years ago was they created what they call the Ambassador Club. And you can join, you can go right now, go online, go to Maker's Mark, and you can sign up for free to be an ambassador for Maker's Mark. And when you do that, you get stuff. It's like the old, Little Orphan Annie decoder ring. You get stuff that only people in the club get. You don't get discounts. You don't get that type of thing. What you do is you get stuff that are just for people in the club. They will send you invitations, a concert in Loretto, Kentucky, that is only for ambassadors. And they'll have a big, bluegrass festival and stuff like that. And you have to be an ambassador to come. You get your name put on a barrel when you first join. And when the barrel ages and is ready to be bottled, you can come out and you can get 2 bottles. You have to pay for the bottles, but they imprint them with your names, and you get these 2 special bottles of bourbon every year. And especially at the holiday season, they always send out holiday gifts, Christmas gifts to everybody. And like one year they sent out earmuffs for your bottle of Maker's Mark, right? Another time they sent out mistletoe that you could attach to the top of your bottle of Maker's Mark. And, I speak all the time. I'm out giving speeches. Inevitably, if I mention the Maker's Mark Ambassador Club, if I open it up to conversation or questions or something, or I'll say, give me some comments, inevitably somebody will come up, they'll raise their hand and they'll say, I'm an ambassador too. And boy, I love being an ambassador of Maker's Mark. And I tell all my friends about Maker's Mark and being an ambassador, and here I am. I'm telling you about it, right? I'm telling you, go if you like bourbon, go be a member of Maker's Mark Ambassador Club. It's a lot of fun. It's cool. So now here's what you got. You've got all these people who are ambassadors. What are they going to drink?
There's the no-brainer part.
Yeah, and when they're with friends and they're out having a drink and they might order a Maker's Mark, they're going to tell their friends. I love Maker's Mark because of this club and stuff like that.
So let's drill this down a little bit. So I'm a shop owner. I create an ambassadors club. I basically got to sit down with my team and think this through and say, what's the qualifications to be in it?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be too hard to get. And then what are we going to do on a quarterly or yearly basis for our ambassadors? And in fact, the beauty of the word ambassador, you know what I love about it? It almost says I'm an advocate. I'm an individual who's going to go out and speak on behalf of that company.
Yeah, you're an evangelist. That's what you are. And that's what the whole point is that you're in the club. And of course, people who are in the club are going to self-select other people who should be in the club. And they will always be somebody who fits the profile exactly right.
I've got to have exceptional service levels, high-quality people, good business culture. I mean, I've got to have, a strong company if I'm going to go out and ask people to be advocates for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you're not good, I can't help you. I mean, it's kind of the way it is. You better be good at what you do. I mean, that's the ante in the game these days. Another quick example, Lexus. And they started this in Sydney, Australia, and I know they're doing this in other locations now too. But I love this story because Lexus, what they did was they did something that they created a Cool Kids Club without even calling it a Cool Kids Club. If you go to the Sydney Opera, if you love opera in Sydney, Australia, and you own a Lexus, when you drive there, they have a valet who only parks Lexus. There are no other valets at the opera. When they park your car, you're invited to go into the Lexus owners only reception beforehand, right? You go to the opera, you are being seen at the opera. You're driving up in your Lexus at the opera. And your friends who own Mercedes-Benzes are having to go park themselves, and then they have to go walk, and they don't have a little get-together of people. If you are an opera lover who drives a Lexus and it's time for a new car, would you ever get a Mercedes? Not in a million years will you ever get a Mercedes.
So here I'm a Mercedes person, and I say this question: what'd I do wrong?
Yeah. Wow. I want to be with those guys.
Yeah, I want to
right?
be in the cool kids club.
That's right.
I love it, and I hope we're spurring some fabulous ideas. One of the sections of the book is you talked about building a real wow campaign with a new customer to kind of thank them for hanging around there. I mean, talk about a retention kit. I'd love you to share, just a couple of thoughts to get our listener energized.
One thing that I especially love the fact that I'm hearing about this from a number of my clients these days, is what is known as the shock and awe package. I gave you an example of Lexus doing something like this, which is sort of a shock and awe type of package. Now, you can use it in marketing in general just to get the attention of somebody. But I also love to use something like this when somebody becomes a new customer. And then I want to give them something that is completely unexpected. It might be out of left field to just go, wow. And like Lexus was doing this, I don't know if they still do this, but they were doing this for a while, where when somebody bought a new Lexus and you went and you picked up your Lexus and you drove away, in the back seat of the Lexus was a beautiful leather, like athletic bag. That clearly costs some money, right? A few $100. And, but it was just this wow gift out of the blue. Nobody expected. And they just go, holy cow, look at this. This is really amazing. And shock and awe packages. I have one client who, see, the thing is, like, if you mail it to them, or ship it to them or something, and they get it, number one, it's a shock. They're like, wow, what is this? It's like this big box, and it's just stuff that you might say, hey, I know we had to have your car for a while, and I know that you probably had to rent a car or something like that. We'd like to give you something to entertain you a little bit, even though it's too late now, or even if you have their car and you give this to them and you say, okay, you probably won't be able to go out as much as you would if you had your car. So here, and you give them a box, and and maybe today this isn't quite as applicable, but and in the box are 3 DVD movies and popcorn, and other treats and things like that, to entertain them in the dead time that they're going to have at home. And they're just like, holy cow, wow, what is this? This is really, really neat. Movie night on us. Here you go. Here's everything you need to have a fun evening. And, oh, by the way, here's a coupon for free pizza from Pizza Hut or somebody nearby. We just want to let you know that we do appreciate your confidence in us and working with us. And so it's creating stuff. It's putting stuff together that, like I say, it's a shock. And it's just like, wow, this is so cool. It just comes out of the blue, and it can be anything. What is the ticket price of what are they spending with you? I've seen people send video players, and they'll have a video in there and they'll say, "Oh, press play," and it's the owner of the shop. And the owner is just going, man, I really want to tell you how much I appreciate your business. You really are important to me. And so we're sending you this video player and this, and you might say something like, yeah, it'd be great if you could return the video player, but we're not going to let sleep over it, that type of thing. But these shock and awe, it helps to so that people go, wow. They go, wow.
I'm excited to hear these outside the box thoughts and ideas. I'm even a fan of breaking the box.
The way I talk about the box is I say that think about the box. Nobody's ever actually explained what the box is. What the box is it's you. Like if we think in terms of aftermarket shops, car repair, auto repair, if you are in the auto repair business, then you're in the auto repair box. You're automatically in the auto repair box. And so are all the other auto repair shops in your area. And that's what happens is that we get these blinders on. We're in this box with four walls around us, and all we see are each other. And so the idea of getting out of the box, while that makes sense, what does that mean? I say, no, don't get out of the box. Build your own box. You build your own box where you get inside that and you start to, and you create your own rules. You do business your way, and everybody else that's in the other box, they're just shouting for attention. There's an echo, and a lot of the shouting is based on price. Because people say, well, how much will it cost to repair this? And I'm going to go get another price from somewhere else. But you see, the point of all of this is you don't want price to be the reason why they hire you. You want them to hire you because they heard, if you don't go to this place, you're stupid.
We can't do the book justice in a short podcast like this, and there is so much there. You do cover a very wide spectrum of the challenges that exist, and I had written all these great notes down here as to really want to dig into the commoditization of our industry and all that stuff. But go get the book, read it, and change your business. Now, it took until the end of the book for me to find your rules, and it was probably it was placed perfectly at the end. I mean, you covered all the rules during the book, but it was this perfect little list in the back. There's 7 of them. Just to tease the audience, the first one is look at what everybody else is doing and don't do it.
Don't do it, right. Well, the rules came out of, I ran into a situation, and we're talking probably 25 years ago. All of a sudden I realized, here I am, I have my own business. I am a consultant, I'm speaking, but of course the biggest part of my business at that time was consulting. So I had all these clients, right? And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable because I was at the beck and call of my clients. And one client in particular, who shall remain nameless, but is really, really big, based in Seattle, I was so miserable working with them. But they represented over 60% of my income. And I was just going crazy. And my wife and I, my smoking hot wife, Kay, and I sat down and I said, we have to fire these guys. I said, I didn't start my business just to be an employee that is just in a different type of category. So I said, we have to fire these guys. Somehow we'll survive. And it was rough. It was rough firing them. But I sat down and I said, okay, in the future, the business is for me. Okay. If you started your own business, then yeah, you probably have ideas that you're helping the industry, you're helping people, and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately you started it because you felt like you wanted to do it yourself. And you might feel that you want the freedom that comes with it and all that sort of stuff. So what I sat down and did was I sat down and I wrote my rules for competition, rules for business. I wrote rules for what I teach people. And I said, this is really important stuff, because I need to go sit down and when I'm talking with people, I need to say, here's how I live and here's how I think. So like something as simple as saying that when I'm working with you, you got to understand, I'm not here to just make you better. You have to be different. And rule number 1 in that is, we have to, let's look at and study everybody else. Let's take a look at what they're doing. And then we're going to go 180 the other direction. If you don't have the stomach for that, then I'm the wrong guy to be working with.
Fire a customer. We've discussed that too a lot. And thank you for sharing that. Wow. Steve Miller, thank you so much. The book's Uncopyable, How to Create an Unfair Advantage Over Your Competition. I give it an incredible rating. I know this is perfect for our entrepreneurial style automotive aftermarket. To all the owners out there, they can change their business. Thank you for writing the book.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for inviting me. This has been great.
It was great. Thanks so much, Steve. Hey, thank you, Steve Miller, for extending to us the marketing strategy of becoming uncopyable. The aftermarket will gain an advantage on how to build their own box and make their brand uncopyable and their competitive advantage. This episode's key talking points can be found at remarkableresults.biz/E380. Now, don't forget the books page. Steve's book is there, so if you want to add it to your collection, you can do so at remarkableresults.biz/books. Hey, have a great day. Thanks for your support, and talk soon.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.